Hi, YouTube. This is Kristen again. Uh, you've heard me talk about a myriad of different things, and a lot of it's been reflective of what caused me to be overweight and the depths of like my binges and being real about what I eat and whatnot. And I want to reflect a little bit more because I have been watching a lot of YouTube videos of, nutrition, weight loss, eating, I mean, anything having to do with everything like that. And so I've been absorbing a lot because YouTube is a large portion of the education I'm getting. Um, but I'd like to reflect upon certain subjects. I have them written down and I'm gonna go through them and hopefully it could be quick and not a long-winded video. So, one thing I like to talk about is diets. I know growing up in high school, there was a lot of fad diets, and my best friend was privy to pretty much all of them. And we all tried them in the same equal manner. And we're like, we're going to do this, we're going to get fit, and it was more likely for me because I was way more overweight than them. But they were into the whole I want to lose weight, and I didn't quite understand in my opinion because I was much bigger than them, and they to me were already skinny. So I was like, "Do you really need a diet again?" And it was just crazy. But um, I guess in high school, the education I remember receiving about nutrition and health was very elementary. It was very basic. It didn't go over diets. And so I think maybe that's a very big exclamation mark here because perhaps high schools should do education about diets because it does affect high schoolers. It does affect teenagers. So that should be one of those educations that happen in high school. I don't know. That's one that should happen. Anyway, but the main thing I want to get out there is that I'm not dissing any one diet because I've seen them work for people and that's perfect. I've seen one lady transform and I was like, wow, she's really committed to do this keto diet and she lost a lot of weight. And I'm very proud of her and she feels better. She's great. Her husband's proud of her. And yeah, I mean, that's great. And also the same thing with other diets. If you can stick to it and you are happy with it and you get the results, bam, you're great. So I'm not dissing diets that can actually make you lose weight because that's what specific diet plans are for. Being in the healthcare industry, let me just turn this off because I quit looking at it. Being in the healthcare industry, a lot of um, especially in the nursing home, pretty much, there were a lot of different kind of diets, a lot of restrictive diets for their health and doctor's orders and stuff. So a lot of it, I sort of understood in that way. But the thing is, uh, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to go on any specific diet. And if you find that you can't stick with that diet, then maybe that's not for you. But the diet that I go by, and a lot of times I guess it's called the common sense diet, apparently, but it's just looking up those healthy foods and making them part of your diet and realizing that you do need to portion your sizes and not have seconds and perhaps choose food that you get more satisfied with instead of foods that taste as good, like foods that will keep you hungry, keep you full longer. And generally high protein and high fiber usually do that, but in like realistically you just make it part of your life. If that means you have to exit foods out that are like becoming a problem, me it was carbs. Sad to say, it was carbs, not necessarily bread. Okay, maybe it was a little bit bread too. I love this garlic loaf. But anyway, uh, it was pasta for me. Pasta. Big time. Pasta, 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 pasta. And it could be the macaroni and cheese that's so bad for you, or it could be Alfredo or Like, it doesn't matter if there was chicken or veggies in it. It was the pasta, big time, because I'd have large amounts of that, and people don't necessarily think that that's a big thing because, like, restaurants serve it to you in that big amount, like, whatever, right? So you make it look like what you'd get at a restaurant when they serve you very large amounts. And so carbs literally had to be cut from my diet. Well, not only because I'm diabetic, but because they did account for a lot of the weight gain. And I think in 90% of people with a weight problem like me that are obese and morbidly obese, carbs are pretty much the culprit. So getting rid of those carbs, learning how to find the good carbs that my body can digest easily, and then exercise became a thing, but that was later. I'm not going to stress exercise per se, but diets are a thing. It's just pick one that you know you can stick to. Pick one that you're happy with. Pick one that has most of the foods that you generally eat on a regular basis. Like, pick one that works for you. But you have to be educated enough to decide that. Don't just pick a diet and let the diet choose for you. You choose the diet. You make it work for your life, because then that works. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't have, like, restrictive dieting is often a no-no because they tell you, you say no to things. But I said no to carbs, and look at me. Like, I'm still introducing carbs a little bit, but I know better because I'm actually exercising. But diets are a thing you have to be educated on. Education is power, people, and you need to educate yourself. So know the proper nutrition, understand your body's needs, listen to your body when it has a symptom or has a problem, like skin problems or rashes or, sorry, ladies, yeast infections. Like, yes, all this stuff accounts for what your body is crying for. If you have cravings for sweets, well, it's often said that your body is craving certain nutrients. What is it that you're not giving your body that makes you want to crave that sweets? And a lot of times, me, it was sugar addiction. Like, obviously, I wasn't giving my body sugar anymore, so I was like, no, I want cake, I want cake, I want cake, I want cake. Oh, Kristen, you should really go for the ice cream, or donuts, 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 right? So just be aware of what your body is crying out for, listening to your body more than anything, because if you listen to your cravings, you're definitely not going to stick to a diet, and that's not going to work. So basically, just educate yourself before committing to a diet, and don't be disappointed if the diets don't work and you often fall off the wagon a bunch of times. Then find a different diet, because that's obviously not your diet. Oftentimes, thought and being really brutally honest with yourself, because guess what? When you choose a diet to lose weight and be healthy, literally, you can't cheat yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You can't put the wrong number on like, don't lie about your weight. It's not like who's really going to know? It's like, you are going to know, because you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for other people. You're not doing it for a pass or fail grade. I mean, you're not doing it for anybody else but you. So you have to be honest with yourself about how you are going about your diet, because 90% of weight loss is your diet. It's what you put in your mouth. So, brings me to my next subject, is weight loss goals. I'm obviously not there for my weight loss goal. I still have my double chin and Flabby McFlabbertons and all that stuff, but I guess my goal would be 200 to start. And if I do 200, I can get down to lower. And I know that, like, maybe my ideal weight for me would be anything above 160. So if I get to 160, I want to maintain that. I don't want to get lower than that, because then I'd look really sick, I suppose. But I've never been down that size, well, in a very, very long time, maybe when I was a kid. So being realistic about my body, that's not a realistic goal. So I want to be down to 200, and I think I'd look super healthy at 200. I'd still be considered overweight, but who cares? So my weight loss goals are just give or take that range. And what I see a lot of women want to get down to, and I say a lot of women because I'm on a women's group that loses weight, a lot of women focus on that number And so they do all the things that comes with weight loss. They literally control their diet, and they exercise in the gym, and they do, weightlifting is a good thing too, because they know muscle can increase metabolism. So they do all this stuff, and they're like, why is the weight not coming down? And they get really super focused on that. And what I find disappointing is sometimes your body takes more time to adjust. And when it does adjust to your exercise and diet, you have to change it up. You have to get more strict. You have to trick it, I suppose, to adjust a little better, or maybe be a little more patient with your body. Maybe it needs more time. It's not always like, especially with women, it's not always a cut and dry science with those numbers, and numbers on a scale often make us psycho. Okay? So for the weight loss goals, just be realistic about what you want. And I see these body positivity activists being so negative about that. And I think oftentimes they're just stressing that your incentive to lose weight is to look better. And oftentimes, I mean, if you're mature enough and you make the decision to lose weight, it's not so you can look better in pictures. It's so your health is better. And that's a good goal to have. The byproduct is that you look better in clothes. Yes, I want to look better when I look in the mirror, and I want to look better naked. Sure, we all do. But that's a byproduct of the decision of losing weight. Now, that's just the weight loss goals. Just don't get upset if you don't achieve that goal, because I'm not going to get upset about it. I just know that eventually I might get there, but in the meantime, if it just slowly keeps creeping down that goal, okay, but that's a pretty lofty goal for me. That's still over like 80 pounds to go. And I mean, or actually 75 pounds, I guess, but like, that's still a pretty lofty goal. It took me almost 6 months to get down to that from 300. So, again, my body is adjusting, and the first portion of that weight loss wasn't exercise, it was my diet. So the other one is when we cheat on our diets, because I do this, okay? I'm a binger. I have binges. Nobody's holding me accountable to it. Nobody's protecting me from it. It's 100% me that makes this happen, and it's 100% me when it happens. So I don't blame anybody else but myself. I definitely don't blame society, TikTokers. But when you do go off the rails and you binge on something that you haven't had in a very long time, that you absolutely crave, because I gotta stress that you oftentimes, I do feel bad and I do feel guilt. However, how I feel about what I did has nothing to do with how to get over it. And I often, like, if you spend weeks at a time mourning the fact, or like grieving the fact that you made like a horrible decision with your diet, just that one cheat day or one cheat meal or whatever, then you're really just going to defeat the whole purpose of your health. I think my main thing is now just to keep it going. Keep going. Just don't realize you made a mistake, repent, and just keep going. And continue to eat healthy, continue to do the exercise. Be healthy, make healthier decisions. Know, okay, maybe to make ways to prevent you from doing that. Mine, obviously, impulse buying is when I would go to a store. And most of the time, if I go to the store on a whim, where I was like, oh, maybe I should stop by the store and get this, that is the culprit. My main thing is that if I go to a store, it's usually to get groceries, and I have a list to stock up on foods and for recipes that I need. And that's the main purpose for me going to the store. If I go to the store just on a whim to buy something, it's generally going to end up me buying junk. And then that's what ends up in a binge. So I know ways to combat that and prevent that from happening, because guess what? That's what I've recognized. So being real with yourself and identifying ways to combat that. But don't get discouraged. And I do see that on my weight loss group on Facebook, that they beat themselves up. They're like, oh, this is so horrible. I'm never gonna, I hate myself. And why I sympathize 100% with those feelings. What you don't understand is those are kind of counterintuitive. Like, they're not productive for your health, especially for your mental health. So you made a mistake. You recognize it, you identify it, confessing it is 100% good, and then you move on. You decide that this is how I'm going to combat this next time, and you move on. You just live like you were, keep your diet going, eat healthy, don't skip meals because of it, don't punish yourself because of it, just move on and just keep moving on. And you'll find that that happens less and less and less and less. So I remember talking on this with the weight loss goals, but what the scale says, and I'm going to emphasize this one more time. A lot of the women, yes, um, focus on that number on the scale. And I am one of them too. Trust me, it frustrates me. Because when I'm like losing 2 pounds a week and seeing it week after week after week go down, you're like, yes, you're finally making progress. And then it doesn't. And sometimes yo-yos up and down. I get frustrated. I do. But why? Why am I getting frustrated with that? Like, and then I start to wonder, why is it happening? Do I have to have a reason for it? So the variables for me, which I often think are the same with other women, are that hormones fluctuate your weight up to 6 pounds, ladies, 6 pounds. And I hate this because normally it is the 6 pounds that I'm struggling with. So depending on the fluctuations of like PMS and your menstrual cycle and all that stuff, that literally, it just, from just a few couple days to bloatedness to, it's a horrible myriad of weight loss fluctuations, and you're never going to get a huge baseline. So I'm just like, it's frustrating because my hormones do go everywhere, and especially now that I'm losing weight, that definitely fluctuates my hormones, considering that I didn't have that kind of fluctuation before because I didn't have a period, so I was lacking the hormones that did that. So I understand what happens when it happens. Also, my muscle gain. I started strength training. I didn't focus so much on cardio. I do try to do 30 minutes of cardio. I'm learning the whole fat loss and burning those calories while I'm at the gym because it's so fun to watch my Fitbit numbers go up in that aspect. But also, I have to remember the importance of building muscle. And so, who cares if I didn't lose so much cardio points doing the cardio zone on my heart rate? But if I build that muscle and I'm gaining muscle, that's going to weigh just as much as fat, and even more, I guess. And so the scale is probably not going to move so much because my scale quit moving so fast when I entered the gym because I started gaining muscle. But I did notice, well, yeah, I measured it, or I started to get a tape measure and started measuring around my waist and taking the measurements and realizing, well, this is why my clothes fit a lot looser. That's why I'm having to, like, almost in all of my pants, having to get safety pins to pin them tighter so they can fit and so they don't drop on me all the time. So it is making a difference. Just because I'm not seeing it on the scale, I am seeing it in my clothes. And that part to me is a big deal. A lot of my family and friends notice the weight loss every time they see me, and that feels good too. I have noticed I don't like to cringe every time I see myself, my reflection in somewhere, that I can actually think that that's a good picture. If somebody takes a picture of me, I'd be okay with that. It took a while to do that, but oftentimes we get really caught up in that number, and it's counterintuitive. The number on a scale is not always going to give us gospel, because there is water weight, there is bloatedness, there is hormone fluctuations, there is muscle, there is lean body mass that it doesn't take into account. It literally just makes you stand there, and however much pressure is on that scale is how much weight there is. So whether or not that's a lean muscle, whether or not that's body fat, oftentimes the scale can't tell. So really, you shouldn't be, that could be a barometer, and it's good to make that progress, but don't get tripped up on the lack of progress. The last one is my thoughts, that my thoughts were wrong. Let's say, growing up, I guess back when teenagers are more conscious of their body image. And they're like, you know what? I would like to look good in that dress. So let's lose a few pounds. Let's go on this weight loss shake journey. And they'll give you a whole package. Let's throw down $150 for a month and see about getting my weight loss. Yeah? Okay. So I can fit into that dress on homecoming. Right? Okay, I never did this, but my friends did, of course. And so in my perspective on weight loss, and it did not come from education in high school, I'm sorry to say, but it came from what people were doing because they didn't like themselves. And oftentimes it was eating disorders in high school. Yes, they became bulimic. Yes, they became anorexic. Yes, they followed so many crazy diets that it did make them lose weight, but in the long run wasn't healthy. But being young, you can bounce back from that easy enough. But a lot of the I guess, part of me always thought about drinking more water. Oh, I just drink more water, fill it myself, just flush it out, flush it out. Or one girl in when I that I worked with in I thought that was his funny. One girl that actually she's young something, she was like a teenager at the time, but I was a little older. They worked at McDonald's. She was like, "Oh, I'll just poop it out." Like, apparently she I mean, okay, 5 pounds of poop coming up, like that's not how it works. So she was skinny enough that obviously that could have been something she definitely listened to, but yeah, let's just say, oh, my digestive system will take care of it. Or um so my thoughts about all this weight loss obviously were wrong. And then when I did try to get serious about it, it was not healthy. Slim Fast being the one that maybe caught my attention the most because my mom did try those products for herself, but it was the thought that I can just have a shake instead of a meal. And so you end up going for those milkshake like shakes. And although I know you can buy healthy ones now and not so much sugar and it can be a meal replacement, the thoughts behind that weight loss are wrong. Because I'd say, oh, I'm just gonna, in your mind's eye, you're thinking, if I can replace so many meals and then like just to kickstart my weight loss and then I'll start eating healthy again, is just the wrong thing, because that is a restrictive diet. You're restricting food and you need that like process of mastication for digestion, and you need the chewing, and you want to feel satisfied, and your mouth needs that to trick your brain into thinking that you have satiated the appetite. And if you're just drinking your calories, if you're just drinking the meal, it's not necessarily satisfying. And then by the time you do lose the weight and you can eat real foods, you do overeat. You do crave the foods that you can't have, and so you end up overeating. And when you're like, oh, I'm just going to go to McDonald's, get a small meal, you end up getting 3, 5 small meals and eating them all yourself. Like, it's not sustainable. So my thoughts were wrong about that. Um, Trying different diets. I did try keto a lot, and the only reason I stopped is because it's so fatty and I didn't like the high fat. My body is not used to that. I definitely didn't want to introduce myself to that. My poor heart can't take it. So high fat foods and high cholesterol foods were definitely off the list, and that kind of negates the keto diet. But the low carb diet definitely helped. Uh, and I guess, yeah, thinking that I broke my diet and I binged, I was like, might as well just keep this going. Um, Yesterday I got a huge package of chocolate for Halloween chocolate, and I went with the intent to share it with friends, and I did. I went to my friend's house, but I grazed on that all day long. So that was my whole cheat day. And I regret it, but like I said, when I change my diet, I move on. So here I am eating healthy and moving on. I'll go to the gym tonight. But uh, my original behavior for that was that, well, it's already here. Let's eat it. Or once I'm finished with this, I'll be better. Or I have time. Um, or I'll just have a salad for dinner. Like, yeah, I just so compensate for that. And oftentimes it's the wrong thoughts. They're just wrong thoughts. And um, they are very negative as well. So thinking, I really think that maybe education about certain diets in high school can actually negate a lot of the misinformation that's happening on social media, and it could probably combat the whole scammers, influencers type of thing, because I really think that was downplayed in high school. And a lot of times they probably don't want to introduce that stuff to high schoolers because of, oh, it's just young fads are going to mistaken it. But give us the correct information. I think it would have been helpful to me to be like, I think the things I remembered in high school are how we calculate calories in a peanut. Like, how often did I have peanuts in my diet? Very rarely, okay? Maybe peanut butter, but did you teach us how to calculate calories in a peanut butter? No, you didn't. Um, just it wasn't practical, and it wasn't like we didn't listen, and obviously because it wasn't practical. And it's oftentimes you've heard it said, oh, you don't need a high school education. Well, I wonder why. Because you're teaching us stuff that isn't practical. Um, I guess now that from this perspective on my side now, I wish I would have been taught more about diets, about perhaps the diet culture 101 would have been a nice intro into the senior year, junior, senior year, or hell, even freshman year. You're just starting high school, it's body image in middle school, and let's get this information outright. And I think that is very important, especially when obesity is very prevalent with teenagers nowadays, especially in America and in the UK and in Australia. Like, it happens everywhere. But I don't feel like we're getting the necessary information to combat that. We get the education from YouTube videos like this. We get the information after the fact. Or we just simply say, screw it, this is it. How dare you discriminate against me, and start this activist thing where you can say anything you want and expect it to be true. Well, that's not true. And it sounds like that education is being neglected in high school, because that's when it seems like these young people are starting up on that stuff. So that to me would have been very helpful in high school. And it it's crazy because a lot of the things in high school that I learned I don't use to this day. I'm almost 40 years old and I can't tell you I've never used algebra. Yet it's required in high school and required in college. Like, I've never used algebra, you guys. Never in my life have I ever used algebra. Uh, what else did I not use it? Apparently geography, never once made a common note. Though I didn't really listen to history. History definitely would have been very significant. Apparently a lot of people don't listen to that either, because there's a lot of misinformation about historical events and stuff. And I guess you could have the information out there, but we don't listen to it. But I mean, I personally, when I went through high school, there was a lot of information that didn't get done. I think before I went into Job Corps, before I quit high school, I think there was a personal finance class I did for math. I enjoyed that class, and it oddly was a math class, but it was just basic addition and subtraction, and I didn't mind that at all. And yeah, we did like basic food measurements, like the metric systems and the 1/4, 1/5. I did have slight difficulty of that, But when it came to converting it into like recipes and stuff, when we did like a home ec class, yeah, that came easy to me. That was practical because I use that a lot. I use that. And then I get into again to Job Corps, and they literally put us through, they kind of re-educate us, and it's sad to say they have to do that. I'm sorry, if they have to do that, they're doing something wrong in high school. I was a little bit shocked at the fact that why do we have to learn this stuff? We didn't have to learn it in high school. And so when I was young and dumb and in Job Corps, I thought for sure that I'd already gotten the education I need in high school because I wasn't repeating my senior year again. Well, guess what? They literally re-educated us on stuff that should have happened in high school. They taught us about bank accounts. They taught us about interest. They taught us about debt and credit cards. They taught us about that stuff. Some of the stuff I educated myself, but it was through a book called Personal Finance for Dummies, and it also walked through all the stuff that you missed in high school. So there's a lot of holes in education in high school, and then they wonder why these young somethings are entitled and spoiled and oftentimes can't have any marketable skill other than performance and production. Like, get an education, people. I'm not saying everybody's dumb and uneducated, but look at your social media feed. Are they? There's tons of stuff to laugh at. So, there's a lot of education that didn't happen in high school that I feel like should have done in high school. Like, especially by senior year, especially when kids are actually starting to realistically think about what's going to happen after high school, where do I want to go in college, what would be useful, and not necessarily just college, because you can get a lot more education in college, of course, but what's more practical ways of living an adult life and like bill pay. Okay, bill pay, medical insurance, how insurance works, how to budget, like budgeting 101 would have been nice. That doesn't happen in high school. Definitely a whole section on credit cards would have been easy. Again, diets, all the different kind of the common missteps about diets. Again, this is education that is also being learned on YouTube, but it should be learned before they even hit YouTube. It should be learned in high school. And sorry, this is like now a 30-minute video, but those are my thoughts. Those are the thoughts that I had in high school that were wrong. And those are my thoughts on diet, weight loss goals, cheating on your diet, and scale. And thank you for listening.